Hello, nerds. We are definitely back. This is definitely generally nerdy. Hopefully you watched the episode of How to Comic-Con before you watched this, but if you haven't, then you can go check that out. I am Dustin. This is your week in Nerdom for September 17th, 2019. This is the place where you get all of your nerd news headlines, music, movies, gaming, comic books, TV, and everything in between. That is what the show is. Let's hit the intro. Alright, we have a very little bit of housekeeping. The biggest thing in housekeeping for the channel right now is the Joker. So, normally I do reviews anymore for movies when they're brand new over on the Big Show Entertainment Media Network. The Ben Network, all of that stuff goes up over there. And the catch to that, though, is Ben only does reviews for everything up to PG-13. So we were trying to work out how exactly we were going to do a Joker review, and the loophole is that I'll review anything. So that is going to happen on this channel. So we will be doing the Joker review with Super Dave Raines over on the Big Show, but it will be posted here, so it will technically be a generally nerdy episode. So that will be coming very, very shortly after the Joker movie, which is next week, or a week and a half away, I guess, at this point. So, yeah. Super excited about that. I have heard all of the good things about the Joker, and I'm stoked for it. The other thing is next month I have an interview that I will be doing with a local author. I should be getting the book from the author here in the next week or so. So I will be trying to burn through reading that. So if I have to kind of push back the episodes, the Weekend Nerdom episodes a little bit, that's why, because I'm trying to gear up for an interview, trying to get this interview series really off the ground, and I felt like this was a pretty good way to do it. So, that being said, that is all of the housekeeping we have to do. Let's jump into music news, baby. And music news, God, we have so much death in music news. I didn't even write down, there was another one, Clutch's old keyboard player who was on Beale Street to Oblivion and Robot Hive Exodus. That guy died too. I was just so bummed out that I didn't see the details around that death. But we did also have Ric Ocasek from The Cars and Eddie Money both passed away in the last week and a half since our last episode, which is a big bummer. Ric Ocasek died because of cardiovascular disease. That just came out yesterday, the cause of death. And then Eddie Money, we all kind of know at this point, Eddie Money passed because of heart issues that were brought on by his cancer treatment, or lack thereof. He, a month ago, got diagnosed with cancer, but he has had a bad heart for a while. So in order to treat the cancer, they took him off of his heart medication, and that's what did him in. And so it just really kind of bums me out. Ric Ocasek was 72 years old. Eddie Money was 70 years old. That I feel like that's pretty young in the scheme of things, because Ozzy's pushing into his 80s these days, and Rob Halford, I feel like, is pushing real close to 70, if he's not already past it by a few years. So that just seems like way too young for, especially Ocasek. Like, I'll say what you will about Eddie Money, he was okay. I didn't really get into Eddie Money much, but I mean, he wrote some friggin' classic songs, right? So, I don't know, just a big bummer. So, that kind of sucks. That's starting off the episode on a bad note, right? But we've got a couple of other follow-ups, the first of which being a System of a Down update of sorts. Serj Tankian, well, okay, first of all, they're going on tour. I don't want to bury the lead too hard, but they are going on tour in Europe, which to a lot of fans means, hey, they're talking, maybe they're working on new music. Yeah, no, not bloody likely. Serj Tankian was talking to Billboard, and he said that the situation as far as new music goes has not changed. They will always be friends, they will always play music together, but whether or not they're going to write music together in the future remains to be seen. As it stands right now, no, that's not going to happen, because according to Serj, Darren Malankian, the guitar player and sometimes vocalist of the band, wants way too much freaking control of the band. Wants all of the publishing. Well, he didn't say all of the publishing. He wants more of the publishing rights. So he wants to be a more dominant writer in the group, and wants to be the only member of the band that talks to the press. I think that's a little ridiculous, so I feel like I'm on the side of Serj and the rest of the guys, because Darren has other projects that he is that guy for, that he is the only writer for, that he is the only guy who talks to the media. Like, that's not a thing he needs for the group that he is a democratic member of. That doesn't make any sense. So totally on the side of Serj and the guys. But that is all we have on that one. Our last piece of news has to do with Kreator, a band we don't necessarily talk about much on the show because I'm really not into the power metal as much. Yes, I love Dragon Force, and that's about as power metal as it gets. Kreator, I mean, guess you could say they're kind of thrash, power, somewhere hybrid there, but the reason we're talking about Kreator is because of Dragon Force. So there you go. Fredric Leclercq, who we've talked about relatively recently, who has left Dragon Force for an undisclosed project. That undisclosed project is Kreator. He got offered the job as the bass player for Kreator. That is why Stevie T is now touring with Dragon Force, which is hilarious to me. But yeah, the mystery is gone now because we finally know exactly what it is that Fredric left Dragon Force for. And I feel like he should have stayed in Dragon Force, but that's just me, and I could be wrong, and we're moving on. Let's talk TV news, shall we? So first up in TV news, this one's not super nerdy, unless you're kind of a sitcom nerd, and I apparently have found out about myself recently that I am a little bit of a sitcom nerd. I really like Roseanne, I really like Friends, I really like Seinfeld, I really like the Drew Carey Show, and that kind of brings us to where we're going with this. ABC is doing a cast from the past to start off this the new season of their programming, and it's a play on words if you didn't catch that, as for Blast from the Past. And so what they're doing is they're taking, for this to start off this season, they're taking their current lineup of shows, so the Connors and Fresh Off the Boat, I think something like that. The Asian family comedy, which I'm pretty sure is called Fresh Off the Boat. Anyway, they're taking these properties that they have. They're bringing in some of the older properties that they have. So they're bringing Dan Aykroyd into the Connors because Dan Aykroyd and John Goodman did the Blues Brothers movie together. They're bringing Drew Carey and some of the Drew Carey Show cast into American Housewife, the Housewife show that they have. I think it's American Housewife. I'm so unfamiliar with what's on television right now, but that's not to say that you shouldn't watch this stuff, because it sounds freaking great. Like, the Connors, say what you will about how it has changed since the Roseanne left, but I feel like it's still pretty solid humor, and if you like that kind of humor, then Dan Aykroyd is just going to be that much more awesome, and anything that Drew Carey does, even if it is just a freaking game show, is hilarious. So definitely worth a watch. I can't believe I'm shilling for ABC right now, but that's kind of what I'm doing. No sponsor, I promise. But yeah, so that's pretty freaking awesome. But I just wanted to touch on that because apparently I'm a big sitcom nerd. But also, speaking of sitcoms, we are doing a follow-up to the Seinfeld bit that we talked about a couple episodes back. If you remember, Seinfeld, the contract that they had with Hulu is coming up very soon. as in 2021. So a lot of places were thinking, well, maybe it's just going to go to HBO Max because that's, the Sony has a deal and they are the ones who own the Seinfeld rights right now. But it doesn't seem like that's the case. It seems like Netflix is going whole hog on trying to have tentpole existing content like Friends that they just lost, or The Office that they also just lost. Now they have picked up Seinfeld. Once Seinfeld's done on Hulu in 2021, it will migrate over to Netflix. So Netflix still has the big pockets while they're waiting for Disney Plus to roll out, and while they're waiting for HBO Max to roll out, and all of these things that are about to happen that are going to put a big old dent in their income. They're trying their best to keep it up, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I'm down for. I don't have Hulu Premium, so I'm definitely down to watch some Netflix. Though Hulu is going to become part of Disney Plus, so I'm gonna get Disney Plus, and that's just a thing that's gonna happen. Anyway, continuing on, we also have. This is the biggest one for me, personally. Kingkiller Chronicles. We've talked before on Generally Nerdy about the Kingkiller Chronicles and how Patrick Rothfuss has optioned off the rights to Lionsgate for not just a TV series, but also a movie and a series of video games. That had to be the way it went off, Rothfuss said, when he signed the deal. Otherwise, he wasn't going to do it. So Lionsgate then optioned the airing rights off to Showtime. Showtime was like, yes, this is one of the biggest selling fantasy books since George R.R. Martin put out his crazy awesome pieces of work. And then Tolkien really is the next thing that comes to mind. That's the kind of air that Rothfuss is breathing. He is in the same room with Tolkien and George R.R. Martin. And honestly, I feel like Kingkiller is the best piece of fiction you're ever going to read, even with Martin's fiction out there, which is also phenomenal. Kingkiller is better, in my opinion. Don't hang me in the comments. That's just the way I feel. Anyway, it's burying the lead. Showtime was all about it. And then they brought in Lin-Manuel Miranda as a producer. And I can't remember who the showrunner is. I left it out of the notes for whatever reason. But Showtime has passed. Showtime said, you know what? We've put a little bit of money into this. I don't think we're going to do it. So Lionsgate now has to shop it around again. And because they had things set in motion, this prequel series, which is supposedly supposed to take place about a generation before the events of the first book, which is Name of the Wind. You should definitely go pick it up if you haven't yet. This was presumably going to be the story of Quoth's family, his parents at the very least. So... and that was supposed to coincide with the release of the new movie, which very little is known about that because the script hasn't been written yet, is still in the process of being written, which kind of is an ongoing thing with Patrick Rothfuss. If you're familiar with the books, you'll know what I mean. So they're optioning it off to other outlets, and right now it looks like the biggest option is going to be Apple. And I don't want to have to buy another freaking streaming service, but I will definitely consider it if that's where Kingkiller lands. I personally feel like it would make more sense for a bigger... though who's bigger than Apple? I'll just leave my opinion out of that because that was ill thought out. So yeah, very interesting, very, very interesting. Definitely going to be keeping tabs on where this lands because it is going to land somewhere because you cannot ignore the power that is the Kingkiller Chronicles. But next, we're talking about Game of Thrones. Speaking of fantasy... and George R.R. Martin, Game of Thrones, HBO has another. Remember, they originally said, we've got 5 potential new series that are going to be based on Game of Thrones. Well, of those 5, only 1 has come to fruition. Until now, we have potentially a second. This one is going to tie very feasibly, going to tie more directly into the series that just came to an end, as it is going to be telling us the story of the Targaryens. So it is going to start 300 years before the events of the Song of Fire and Ice series. It is going to be based on Fire and Blood, which is the tie-in book for Song of Fire and Ice. So because the books tie in, it only makes sense that the series will also tie in. And then the last piece of news for TV, guys, is Star Wars, a Christmas special. That's right, I said it. I'm not afraid to admit it. Well, okay. Jon Favreau said recently that he wants to do a new Christmas special for Disney Plus, which is not a bad idea, because the last Christmas special sucked, was terrible, and absolutely unwatchable. So if they make another one, hopefully that will completely erase the existence of the... No, that's not going to happen. But it'll still give us something, all of the Star Wars fans, something to watch at Christmas time that's Christmas themed, that isn't, again, that abomination that really is the only place we see an excessive amount of Boba Fett outside of the books and comics. But now we're moving on to movies. And to start off, movies... we have more Star Wars. So this one actually is kind of a catch-up from the last episode, because I didn't realize this happened at FanX, but apparently at FanX, which, you know, Salt Lake FanX Fall 2019, it happened 2 weekends ago, and I was there, and I made videos, and you can go watch the first video on Generally Nerdy. You can go definitely watch it. It's a thing that's happened. And How to Comic-Con FanX Fall 2019. It's up. I posted it. It's cool. Anyway, so Hayden Christensen and Ian McDiarmid were both at Salt Lake FanX Fall 2019, and they were both supposed to do a panel together. And that's when Disney stepped in and threatened the convention with a lawsuit if they didn't cancel the panel. So I knew that a big panel got canceled, because it was right before the Twisted Toons panel, which is my favorite panel at that convention every year. And if you have a Twisted Toons panel at your local large comic book convention, then you know exactly why that's my favorite. Or, again, you can go watch my How to Comic-Con video and you'll see a little bit of it. Anyway, so that was apparently the panel that was canceled right before Twisted Toons, and the reason they wanted Salt Lake to cancel this panel was because they were afraid of spoilers. Which is very interesting, because what the heck... We know Ian McDiarmid is coming back for the final Skywalker movie. We know this is happening. We know the Emperor is going to be... But Hayden Christensen, what the heck is Hayden Christensen got to do with spoilers for The Rise of Skywalker? Rumor is Hayden Christensen is going to make an appearance in The Rise of Skywalker, and this is somehow confirmation for that rumor. I don't know how much of that I believe, just because Vader, maybe he comes back as a Force Ghost. Maybe we see him again, because we've only seen him the once as a Force Ghost, as Anakin. Maybe the dark side has Force Ghosts too? I don't know. It's very interesting to think about, and we only have a couple months to do that thinking, because December's coming up real quick. So yeah, that was the follow-up to FanX, because I, again, had no idea that was the panel that got canceled, and that was the reason that it got canceled. So the actual real news is another follow-up to Tank Girl, which we talked about in the last episode. It seems that Margot Robbie might not be playing Tank Girl. She wants to read the script first. She is going to be producing the project. She just might not be starring in the project. Also, they have set in motion Miles Yoris Perafiti. I'm so sorry about butchering that name, but he is signed on to direct. He directed something with Margot Robbie this year, Discoverland, something. Otherwise, he's done very small projects, so no idea exactly what kind of hands the movie's going to be in if he does stay to direct, because Lord knows movies go through directors sometimes like a sick kid goes through tissue. But yeah, so that's really interesting to think about. Margot's going to produce, but not star, potentially. Next, we're talking about J.J. Abrams. This is also a follow-up, because we talked a little while ago about how Abrams was looking to sign a deal with a major studio. It was looking like maybe that was going to be Disney or Warner. Well, it was Warner. And it's not necessarily Abrams directly, but it's Bad Robot, which Abrams is the executive over all the things Bad Robot. But it's $500 million, just like we figured it was going to be, and it's good for until 2024. And he's landed, which means very, very potentially Abrams is going to have his hands in the DC Extended Universe, assuming that's still a thing, even though we know it's not really a thing, and we're moving on. Next, we're talking about Black Widow. It seems that this movie is pulling out of retirement a lot of superheroes, and not just Scarlett Johansson and Hellboy. He's not going to be Hellboy in this. I just made that up. Anyway, David Harbour is going to be in it, just not Hellboy. Anyway, now the rumor is that we're going to be seeing Iron Man in the Black Widow movie. So they got Robert Downey Jr. to sign another contract to do one more movie as Iron. Very likely, if this is true, he'll be on screen for less than 5 minutes, and it will be an enormous payout for him. But still, it's very interesting that Endgame was not the last time we saw him on screen. We already know that this is a prequel because Black Widow's dead in the proper MCU right now, so unless they figure a way to bring her and him back, this is kind of cementing the fact that this is going to be a prequel, right? Though we've already got confirmation through like set pictures and things like that it's a prequel, and moving on. Our last piece of news, I know I said the Kingkiller bit was probably my most exciting piece, but this one's pretty far up there because, again, Mortal Kombat nerd. Mortal Kombat, the reboot movie, has officially begun filming as of yesterday. That's right. They are going at it. And the week leading up to that, we got a lot of teases from Makad Brooks, the guy that they have signed on to play Jax, who also was Eggs in True Blood, if you watched that show. He's done other things too. That's just the only thing I recognize him from. And so if you saw his Instagram posts, you see his new physique. He's always been a big dude. He's always been really ripped, but now his arms are massive. Does that mean we're going to see Jax's metal arms in the movie? I don't know. All I know is they're filming, and Greg Russo confirmed it on his Instagram, I believe, or no, his Twitter, and it's exciting, and I cannot wait. Now let's talk about some gaming news. And gaming, we've got an interesting update, a bunch of interesting stuff, because it is Death Stranding. We're talking about Death Stranding. So we got... Last week we got like 3 or 4 gameplay or story trailers that really kind of... So to be fair, they did kind of clear the water a little bit as far as what the hell is potentially going to be happening in this game as far as the story goes. But we also just got some tweets from Hideo Kojima that give us some gameplay stuff, and there's some very, very Hideo stuff, style things going on with this gameplay. In that, like, if you look at Norman Reedus' crotch too much, he punches the camera, and just really weird, random little things like that. It's pretty freaking hilarious. You can follow the link in the description to see all of them, but that doesn't help us with the story. So far, what I've been able to piece together for the story is that obviously it's a post-apocalyptic future. The United States has broken down, and now it's the United Cities, which seems very weird. We still don't exactly know what the BRs are. They appear in the most recent story mode trailer, where Norman Reedus is talking to what appears to be a hologram of the once and future president, and then some dude in a skull mask. They appear to have the creatures, the beings that are like this otherworldly thing in the game that are we have seen floating, and they kind of materialize out of nowhere, and they were in all of the promo art when they first announced the game. They appear to have umbilical cords. So when we got that trailer a few weeks back that showed the ghost baby that the lady had that was controlling things around her, like, maybe these are just grown-up versions of those? Like, I don't know, but it seems that the purpose of this game, the goal of this game is to unite all of the different united cities of America. And so that's going to be your primary goal, and somehow Norman Reedus' character doesn't want this necessarily to happen, doesn't want to be a part of it, isn't necessarily against it happening, he just doesn't want to be a part of it. And so he gets tied into it somehow. They trick him into it, or he gets obligated to help somehow because he's the best at what he does, apparently, presumably, and so he is the one who ties. So through the game, you're going to be linking cities together and making connections and keeping people happy. And then it sounds like towards the end of the game, you run into a city full of people like Norman Reedus who don't want anything to do with this. So I'm excited. If even based on that little bit of flimsy information about the story, it sounds intriguing enough that I'm seriously considering buying a freaking PlayStation 4, but I'm broke, so I'm just gonna have to watch a lot of Let's Play videos. But anyway, the other thing we're talking about in gaming is Smash Brothers, and yeah, so one of the producers for Smash Brothers recently came out and said, this is very likely not going to be a trend, in that every iteration of Smash Brothers has been slightly larger than the one before. And by and large, they have most of, if not all of, the characters from the previous game, which has then culminated in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Well, we're not going, with all of the DLC, we're looking at 80 characters when all is said and done. That's enormous. To make a game that size is an undertaking in and of itself, but then to also keep it balanced and and support and all of the things, it's a huge undertaking. It's gigantic, you might even say. So, because that is the case, because that is the way things are, it's not going to continue. The next game, and he did say if it happens, so it potentially could not happen, though it's Nintendo. So at the very least, after they release a new system after the Nintendo Switch, they're going to release a new Mario, they're going to release a new Zelda, they're going to potentially release a new Metroid, and a Smash Brothers, and it seems like they're getting back on the Mario Party train as well. So I don't think it's very likely that they won't continue, but this trend of bigger game every time definitely can't continue. So the next game is probably going to be significantly smaller. And this is kind of stuff that we probably should have just already known, but I feel like a lot of us took for granted the fact that every Smash Brothers is just bigger than the last one. I don't think you can get bigger than this, but we don't know what next generation gaming leads to, and that's all we've got for gaming. Let's talk comic books. I know we didn't have any comic books for the last episode, but we've got a fair amount for this one. First up, we've got another trailer for another series that is about to start over on Marvel, Dawn of X. Link in the description to that trailer. This is really becoming a thing, and I feel like it's paying off. But I also think that the bigger payoff for this is better writing. They brought Hickman back for these House of X, Powers of X books. Just writing all over is getting better on Marvel's side. They're realizing, hey, so this faux woke garbage that we were trying to pander to a new audience really isn't selling, because the audience we're trying to pander to doesn't read comic books. So who cares about their opinion? Let's write good stuff again so that our existing audience, which is massive, starts buying our books again. And it's that, I think, is the bigger payoff. Though advertising is always a good idea, because advertising lets people know what you're doing, right? So the more advertising they do, the more people know, and the more likely people are to buy. And then when it's good, once they've bought it, they're gonna buy more. Go figure. So yeah, I'm totally behind. I really dig the trailer idea. We've talked about this. We talked about this when Absolute Carnage was starting, and then DC took it over, or did it as well with the White Knight, Curse of the White Knight book that is going on right now. So yeah, pretty interesting. Definitely called it, though, that this is going to be the new trend for marketing, and it's a great idea, so why not do it? And then the next piece we're talking about is Birds of Prey, to coincide with the new Margot Robbie movie that is coming out soonish. They are releasing 3 books with cover art of each of the main. So we got Harley Quinn. I can't remember. You're looking at the artwork on the screen right now, so it's those 3. But we got cover art for the 3 books, and they're collections of classic stories that very likely are what the writers and such drew inspiration from for the movie. Because, like I said, they're releasing these books. They're trade books too, so they're going to be paperbacks and I believe also hardcovers, and they're going to be released to coincide with the movie. So they're releasing them leading up to the movie. So you read these and then you go see the movie and you're going to know what's going on. Hopefully. Well, that very much remains to be seen. But it's that also good marketing. This is a great idea. I feel like Marvel, being as their movies are the more successful ones, could potentially piggyback off of this idea. Even though they make suggestions, if you're excited about our new movie, then go read these books. Kind of happens sort of a little bit, and they definitely reissue certain trades when they're about to release a book. Like there was a boatload of Guardians of the Galaxy before the first movie came out. They reissued a boatload of them, but not specifically as tie-ins, but because they knew that people were going to question, hey, what is this crazy book or this crazy story that I just saw? Are there books that also go along with this? I know it's based on a comic. I feel like if they do something that is more directly tied in, that's the best way to do this. But yeah, that's all we've got there. Next, we're talking about Batman Beyond. Big Batman reader. Huge Batman guy. Not really on the Beyond side. So I was unaware that in Batman Beyond currently, Terry McGinnis is missing, and Bruce Wayne doesn't even know where he's gone off to. And then all of a sudden, in issue number 39, we have a new person in the Beyond suit. But that new person's a woman. Not that that's a bad thing. I sound like an episode of Seinfeld. But it's interesting. It's not. They're not replacing Terry because Bruce doesn't even know who it is. So it just creates this giant mystery of who is this person? How did they get the Beyond suit? Like, what is going on? I feel like this is an interesting way to integrate quote-unquote diversity into a book. This if they handle this well, this could be a very organic way to introduce, even though it is kind of sort of just all of a sudden Batman Beyond's a guy or a girl. It still feels better. It still feels like, oh, she's from a different dimension. It's not Thor, which is a good thing. It just potentially is an organic, and we have to see how the story resolves in order to make our full judgments. But it seems to be an organic way to grow that title. Oh, God. And then, next, we're talking about Frank Miller again, because he's just not done with The Dark Knight Returns. We're getting a 4th book in the series now. It is called The Golden Child, and as far as I know, Eddie Murphy has nothing to do with this. But, so if you read Master Race, which was Dark Knight 3, then you saw that there is, in this Miller-verse, in this Frank Miller DC universe of the future, there is 2 children that belong to Clark Kent and Lois Lane. One of which is their oldest child, who is a girl who featured very predominantly in Master Race, and then the second of which is their son, Jonathan, which every iteration of the couple that has children, I feel like, has a Jonathan. Superboy, currently in the main universe, is Jonathan Kent. And that gets really murky, but primarily, Superboy is Jonathan Kent. Anyway, so the new book, Golden Child, is going to focus more on Jonathan, even though he's effectively a toddler at this point, because in Master Race, he was just born, he was a very small child, but he was very smart. He, like, insanely smart, like having conversations before he could walk smart. So that kind of sets up a very unique character. Just from what we've seen, one of the covers of the book, which you're seeing on the screen right now, is Carrie Kelly as Batwoman, as a version of Batwoman. Don't know exactly what that means for Bruce, for Batman, but very likely we're not going to see a whole lot of Batman in this, because I feel like he's pushing into his 80s as of the telling of this book. So I would imagine he's not going to be as predominant a presence in this book, even though it is named after him. I feel like with Carrie Kelly putting on a bat suit instead of a Robin suit, that's probably more the Dark Knight that we're going to see, which again is a great organic way of doing this. Bruce Wayne has aged out of the suit, so now somebody else has to wear a Batman suit, a bat suit. Let's just say it that way. So yeah, super excited about this announcement. I definitely will read this as well, because again, Batman, hello. And then our last piece of news is Young Justice, Tim Drake. We've talked about how he may or may not be changing his name because he's, gotten different suits and so on and so forth. And now, apparently, yes, he is changing his name to one of the most dangerous birds in the land. Drake. No. I mean, yes, it's cool that it's a play. It is still a bird, and it is a play on Tim Drake's name. That makes total sense. But they bill it as one of the most dangerous. A drake is a duck. I'm not afraid of a duck. I don't know very many animals that are afraid of ducks. Yes, sure, they have bad tempers. Okay. Tim Drake's really not known for having a bad temper. It just seems like a very strange way to bill a duck. It's a duck. And that's the end of the episode, guys. Thank you very much for watching all the way to the end. What did I miss? What should we talk about in the next one? Let me know in the comments down below. If, though, you want to go deeper into the conversation, then jump over to the website, generallynerdy.net. That is the place to go for all of the things, or patreon.com/generallynerdy is the place to go support all of the things and get even more content. So go check out those two. If you're new to the channel, click the subscribe button. If you like this episode, let me know. Or the other way also works. If you're falling behind in your nerd news and you want to catch up, then you can click or tap that box right there to the left of my face to do that. But before we go, always remember, guys, that if it's generally nerdy, it's probably here.